discreet about it. Extra, extra, read about it. Say you wanna beef about it. We gon' come and see about it. Flexing, ain't discreet about it. Extra, extra, read about it. Say you wanna beef about it. Find out nothing sweet about it. Flexing, ain't discreet about it. Extra, extra, read about it.
We doing it all the way live. B.Woods on the mic, and I got one of the mega stars of middays. I met her at 92.3 The Beat. She's been doing everything from working with Mario Lopez, Arsenio Hall, to doing voiceover work, to working even with the biggest names, Ed Lover, Dr. Dre, and Chi-Town. Give it up for Miss Diana Steele.
Oh, nice intro. Nice intro. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a long time. I can't even, I haven't been in LA since early 2000s. And the last show that I did was with, it was for Hot 92 Jams.
Yeah, I remember you at Hot with, it wasn't with Mario. Who was it with?
I worked with Mario Lopez. Initially, it was Michelle Visage.
That's right. That's right.
And I don't know if you follow Mish, but she's like become this mega international TV star. I call her Mish. And, she's hosted some daytime talk, the Wendy Williams show with Leah Remini. They're really good friends. Anyway, so she went on to pretty much just do television. She was really good friends with RuPaul. So they've been doing that, and she's doing great all over Europe. She may have already moved to London. And then Mario Lopez was with us. And then it was just he and I for a little while. And then, of course, Mario stuck to TV. We always used to laugh because he would take any job anybody would give him. And we used to
like
I went home to visit my mom and my aunt in Palatine, Illinois. And he's like, "Oh, I'm going to be there next weekend." I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "Oh, there's this college thing and they asked me to come speak." I'm like, "Dude, really? You're going to just fly from LA to like this little town outside Chicago to speak at a junior college?" She's like, "Yeah." I'm like,
everything, and in the process, he doesn't age a bit. I'm like, he does all this. He got 72 jobs, and Mario Lopez manages to find the fountain of youth in every city. I don't know what's going on with him.
Yeah, I mean, good. I'm so I'm really happy for both of them. They went on to they found what they loved, their niche, right? And they just stayed in their lane and they kept rocking it. And so just to see them both doing so well is great. I haven't kept up with a lot of the radio people from before, mostly because I move a lot, right? So I left LA, and then I was, working for a while up in Northern California, and then came and back and forth, and now being out in Arizona, I try to stay in touch with some people on Facebook, and just try to when I run into somebody, hey, what's so and so doing? But I see Shirley Strawberry once in a while.
How's Shirley doing it?
Oh, Shirley's amazing. She has always been such a diva, and she is just amazing. She's such an incredible person too. She just has the biggest heart on the planet. But I miss a lot of those relationships that we had. But so when you were there, who was the morning show?
It was whoever. I think it was Steve Harvey and it was John Ludden. So it was John Ludden, Ben Kelly.
Now Ben lives in Arizona.
Ben, okay.
Yeah, so Ben and I stayed friends. Yeah, he and I stayed friends. Yeah, I love Ben. He was a great guy. And then let's see. Theo, I don't know what happened to Theo.
What is going? That is the biggest question. What's going on with Theo? Is he in play?
I used to be able to. He disappeared on me, and I knew that his family was from the Silicon Valley, but he just was so great at music and so loved mixing. And he and DJ Quick were really close that I thought, he's somewhere in the mix in that world. But I never knew. We had a mutual friend, and I don't know if you remember Terry Grieger. He was the engineer.
Yeah, Terry passed.
Yeah, he did. I love Terry. He was just like the coolest nerd on the planet. So, he was a funny guy. But they were friends. And so, when I left and I would say, "Hey, Terry, how's Theo?" And he's doing good. He's doing good. But I've never been able to connect with him. So I'm not really sure what he's up to. But, most of the people I don't believe they're still in radio.
Yeah,
I
it's just
don't think so.
it's
Yeah.
a whole different world. And so
Yeah.
that's why, that's why I like doing this podcast, just kind of catching up and just kind of see where everybody's at. And with you, before we even met, I was a fan
Oh.
of your midday show, and it would just be me, and I would get up, and the way I started working in radio was that I was actually at Santa Monica College, and I would literally just clean the campus. So I had a rake, a broom, and I kick the parking structure, put on my headphones, listen to John London, and I would listen to you, and I would listen to Theo, and I would love your energy and I love your vibe. And I said I wanted anything in the world to be a part of that. Long story short, got an internship, and here we are, years later.
Here we are.
Here we are. And with you, so how did you start? Like, what was your story, your journey? We never had an opportunity to really talk about it. So, like, what made you, like, where are you originally from? Let's start there.
Sorry if you hear the dogs growling in the background.
Oh, good. I love the doggies.
Hey. Okay, knock it off. Nope. Don't you jump up there. First of all, when I think of you, I always thought of your smile. You have the best smile.
Thank you.
You just have this smile that lights up the room, and sometimes I just remember something about someone, and like with you, and I don't know if you ever met one of the guys on the music end, Gary Jackson, or Elston Butler. Did you know Elston?
I didn't know. No, I didn't know.
I remember people like for their smiles, right? And so, but you, I always remembered you for your smile. So I was a little kid in the suburbs of Chicago, and I loved to watch Soul Train on Saturday mornings. And of course, being a little white girl in the suburbs watching Soul Train, mommy didn't like that too much. But I fell in love with the Jackson 5. So I would put the coffee table out, and I would go in my mom's closet, and I'd, get her heels, and I'd take my little t-shirt that I had, and I'd flip it up and pull it down in the middle, because I would watch the girls, and I'd be like, oh, they're so cute, and oh, they're so pretty. And I was like, I'm going to dress like them. And I'd have my little bell bottoms on, and I'd get up on that coffee table, and I'd put on Soul Train, and there I'd go. And I was like probably 5 or 6.
That's insane.
But that was my introduction to soul music, and that whole energy. And Chicago is a very soulful city. So, I think I was just definitely just really drawn to that music initially. And I mean, I love all kinds of music, but there was just something about, especially Motown being so close to Detroit. Motown was a big thing for me. And hey, don't bite her. Dookie, sorry.
And for those, Diane, she has 3 pit bulls. So yeah, they love you so much.
They're fighting. They're fighting each other, and
they will be on the next podcast. I promise.
Yeah, I don't like blood. So, anyways, so I kind of got into music then, like you. I listened to radio, and it was just my outlet. I would listen to the radio at night before I went to bed. It was kind of my escape, and I would call in for all the contests and, try to win. And I thought, when I was in school, they had a class when I think I was in 8th grade, and they said it was a career day, and hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I was like, gosh, there were no women on the radio when I was a kid. It was all guys, but I thought I want to be a TV anchor. So I went to this class, and it was all boys, and it was a sports anchor, and they're like, oh, you can't be in here. And I'm like, well, why not? Why can't a girl be a sports anchor? So I sat there and listened through it, very uncomfortably, but I learned a lot. And I thought, broadcasting is where I want to go. So once I got out of college, got an internship doing traffic for radio stations in Chicago. And that was my first year in college. And then I got a job at the college radio station, which it's really cool because I'm still friends with my old boss from Champaign, Illinois. I'm friends with, a couple other people there that I worked with. It's just kind of cool.
That's incredible.
And yeah, that was like 100 years ago. So then I just got the radio bug. And so I'd go to college, and then I would do like events, I'd do the radio show, and then I'd go to a bar, and, like we used to do back in the day, you'd go throw out, you'd do your thing. And then I got married, moved to California, and I just sent out my audio tape and got hired, and just kept working at different formats until I really locked into KMEL in San Francisco. They had one of the first hip hop stations, and I was like, oh, this is fun. Like, this
Right.
is so much fun. I love this stuff. LL Cool J, I was just, oh. And then they called me in the middle of the night and said, hey, we're going to start this radio station. It's called 92.3, no, FM 92 The Beat. And
So you were when you moved from Chicago to the Bay?
San Francisco, yeah, to the Bay, and then down to LA.
And then what happened? So what happened at KMEL? Did they give you a shift at KMEL?
Yeah, I did overnights, okay. So I was doing the clubs.
So let's take it back a little bit. So now this is like, because that's a big deal. Like KMEL, these are like heritage stations. These are like the major stations. So now you're back. You're coming from a space where they weren't allowing you. They said, oh, you shouldn't be doing, sports talk radio. Now you've interned, you've built a somewhat of a resume, and now you move to the number 2 market in the country. And then you get a phone call and they say, hey, we want you to be a part of. So kind of walk me through that experience, because that's like, I think like when you meet that moment where your dreams come to life, I think that's a magical moment. I think sometimes we just dash past it, but I think it's an important space to kind of live in.
So here's the funny story about this. So I worked, when you start in radio, if you really love it, you're so happy to be there. You'll work any shift they give you. I'll do the weekends, I'll clean up. So my first job on the radio was in college from 4 to 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning, which is prime party time right there. But this is what I wanted to do. So I'm like, this is fun. I get to play music and talk on the radio. How cool is that? And that's what I survived on as a kid. So from going to that and just staying in it, and finding people who didn't have a problem with me being a female on the air. Keith Naftali, who, gosh, she's going to kill me if I get this wrong. He might head up RCA Records right now. But he actually was working for Clive Davis for a while. And anyways, he was so innovative and so open-minded. And I feel the whole, the Bay Area was that way, more so even than LA. LA was like, whatever's trendy, we're hitting. The Bay Area is like, we're going to create it and make it happen here on our own. We're just going to do our own thing. And so he called me in his office. And at that time I was using my born name, and he goes, I don't like your name. It's really boring. I go, it is. And he goes, well, what do you think of this? And he puts this like tape in, and it goes, Diana Steele on 106 KMEL. And I go, oh, that sounds great. Who's that? She's lucky, man. That's awesome. He goes, well, that could be. I was like, oh, really? Touchy. And sorry, she's hitting the dang laptop. And so I said, oh, okay. And he goes, do you mind if I change your name? I was like, you're paying me. You call me whatever you want. So I was there for about 1.5 years. But the thing with KMEL is it was hip hop. So we were always out. We were always at the clubs, right? Well, here I am, 21, I think, maybe 22 years old, something like that. And so, what's in the Bay? The Raiders, the Niners. Oh my God, the parties were insane. And so I had a little trouble getting to work by 2 a.m. sometimes.
I can imagine, yeah.
This is when I get a call in the middle of the night, and it's, that old request line in the middle of the night when, you have like a few people that call you all the time.
Right.
Right. And then somebody calls and it was a real serious voice, and it was Liz Kiley, and I didn't know who she was. And she said, man, I've been trying to call you, and I don't know what shift you work. And sometimes I call and they say you're not in yet. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. And she said, we're going to start this radio station down in LA. Are you interested? And I was like, oh, I think I might be. So of course I had to ask my husband. He's like, he was in the oil business. So he's like, yeah, I'll move down there and transfer. And then I went down and we started FM 92 The Beat, which was kind of like, I always talk about it like the radio, kind of like the Rainbow Coalition of radio. So they decided to put every, race on there. And they had Paul Rodriguez in the morning. They had, so when he was there, they had other people that supported him. And then they put me in middays, and then they had Big Ron O'Brien in afternoons. Now this was on Yucca Street. So we're, at this time, Yucca Street wasn't as pretty as it is now.
Yeah, Hollywood is crazy.
You know, people would sell crack out in the trees. You know, you could see whoa, no. And you'd see it out the window, you know, like, oh, great. And right around the corner from where they filmed Pretty Woman. So I came down, we started the station. Within 6 months, they decided we're going to flip the format. We're not going to do every song under the sun that was popular, which is what they tried to do. So they had a really eclectic staff, and they tried to play all kinds of music. Janet Jackson, Lou Reed, the Stones. I mean, you know, it was all over the place, but I thought it sounded good. It just didn't get the numbers they wanted quick enough, which is what happens in radio, right? So they let everybody go except me. And they said, you know, you've got the experience. Hey, Ty, you've got the experience in urban radio, and we're flipping to urban on Saturday night at 7 o'clock. And I was like, wow, well, this is crazy. So, but first we're going to play a heartbeat for like 48 hours. So that's what they did. They played a heartbeat on this radio station, which was 92.3. And then it became FM 92, The Beat. They took out rock with a beat. And that's when they brought in Michael Stratford, John Mons, Cliff Winston, rest in peace. I love Cliffy. And I got to work with him another time later. We were at, was it V100, I think in.
That's right. Yeah, he was over there.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's kind of how I got into the beat. And I stayed there for about 9 years, and I got bored, you know, wanted to move up, doing middays forever, wanted to break that ceiling again. I got to get in the mornings.
Let's take it back a little. So now you're at the beat. And this is LA, and this is a different time in LA, right? And it's, you know, you're talking about like the 90s in LA.
1990, Chubb Rock jumped upon the scene.
Exactly. That's exactly where you're at. And you went this, and like you said, it's like the Rainbow Coalition. So now when you get there, who's doing the mornings when it flips?
So when it flips, they brought in Cliff. Okay. And I stayed in middays, and they had John Mons in afternoons, and Frankie was at night. So I think Frankie's back on the air now too. He might be at the Wave. But so they brought in everybody. Now I'm the only white girl on the air. Right. And so I don't know if it was my lingo, how I spoke, the depth of my voice, or the fact that I'm on a station and everybody's Black except for me, the people thought I was Black. So unless they'd seen me somewhere or on a billboard or something, and then they go, oh, dang. I remember Samuel Jackson when he met me on the red carpet, and he was like, wait, what'd you say your name was? And I'm like, oh, geez. And I'm like, shit, did I say something about him on the air? So I'm like, Diana Steele. And he goes, damn, girl, I thought you was a sister. He goes, hold on, turn around. Come on, do a twirl for me. So I turn around. He goes, yeah, you're a sister. I'm like, oh my God. And everybody's like, what is going on? Like, everybody else is ready to ask him all the serious questions, and I'm freaking showing him my booty. So
that is hilarious. And that's the biggest thing, because and I thought that the thing that was so dope was the fact that you were always yourself, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when you get like white jocks or other jocks, but they try to, you know, kind of Black sense it up a little bit, and they talk down to the audience. And I think that the biggest thing that was dope about you was you were always yourself.
Yeah.
And that was one of the reasons why, like, I wanted to get into radio, because I always thought that even though they had like different ethnicities at the beat, from the Theos to the Kevin James, everybody was authentically themselves. So when I actually got into the building, it wasn't like people were acting any different. Julio was Julio, Theo was Theo, on and off the air. Kevin James was Kevin, on and off the air.
Yeah, Kevin's still Kevin James, by the way. You know, he works for Snoop.
Okay, I've been trying to get in contact with him also. So we went back and forth for a little bit. I knew he had health issues and the whole thing, but shout out to Kevin.
Yeah, he's doing good now. Praise the Lord. I mean, he went through it, scared me to death, but I love Kevin. He's awesome. KJ.
Yeah, shout out to K. And so, and with you, it was the same thing. And so what made you kind of stay in that space, and what do you think was the thing that made you resonate with a predominantly Black audience?
You know, I wish I knew. I knew that growing up, I was always, for lack of a better term, the black sheep in my family. You know, I broke every rule I wasn't supposed to when I was in college. I think it was my desire to learn. I wanted to find out about every culture, the Latino culture, the Filipino culture, the Japanese culture. I got to admit, I think I've dated almost every race under the sun, but and I don't have a favorite. I just want to say that.
There we go. Shout out to all the races.
Yeah. It's all really what's in the heart, what's in the soul to me. But I think for me, I just love the music, like just so love the music in my soul. I love the music. And, I would get so excited. Like when Berry Gordy came in the studio, I was nervous as heck. But bring in Snoop and I'm okay. Bring in just some of the people, that Quincy Jones, I had the chance to talk with him again on the Arsenio Hall show. Arsenio, I mean, he came in out of nowhere one day and we just started being friends and stayed friends. And then when he was doing the second comeback on his show, he called me and said, "Hey, I want you to do the announcing." And I was like, "Oh, that is so cool." And that was just a great time too. That was 2013, I believe.
Right. And that's huge. I mean, the Arsenio Hall show Arsenio is like another person that I feel
still be on. Like
he should still be on, I think. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, he should still be on. I don't understand why he is not doing a regular show all the time, because he has that gift of relating to everybody. He's so kind. He has such a big heart, and he's so funny. Oh my gosh, he's so funny. But he can relate to everybody. And I don't know why he's not on. I wish he were. And I'm going to keep hope alive.
Yeah, no, I think Arsenio is definitely dope. And
yeah,
I saw a couple interviews where he said it's just a lot of work, or he's just tired and he just want to do it. The talk show's a lot of day-to-day.
And you have to answer to corporate. That's the hard part about it. You think it's the Arsenio Hall show, but CBS is run by who and who's pulling the shots. And you might have all these fabulous ideas and want to do this and want to do that, but they're always pulling on the reins, saying, wait, that's difficult when it's a creative process. It's just like radio. It's creative what you do, especially if you're a morning host. And for somebody to go, you have 7 seconds. What am I going to do with 7 seconds?
Right. Well, and for you, when you did middays, did you get a lot of like a creative flexibility?
I did initially. We were able to, I said, let's do a noontime mix, right? So we would have DJ Paradise. Love. He just had a birthday.
Shout out to Paradise.
Happy birthday. So Dice had his show, Icy Ice. I mean, we had the platform where they could come in and mix shows at lunch. We were able to have Jamie Foster Brown on, where she would do her entertainment, thing on in the mornings. And that was just like our highest rated hour. And that was creatively open, because sometimes it would go longer than it should. We try to keep it short, but two girls start talking and forget it, especially if we're talking about gossip.
and I think that's what made you so relatable. I think that's why people really vibe with it, and you were able to do things that most other midday shows. Because if you listen to middays now, it's essentially something for an office space as opposed
boring. Unless you're on talk. If you get a talk radio, that's a different thing. But to be able to blend music, we'd have artists come in, they'd sit with us for 2 hours. Yeah, I remember Rick James. The day Rick got out of prison, I get a call from DT from Jackson Limousine. Hey, what's up? And I'm like, hey, and next thing I know, Rick James is on his way. We want to come by the studio. It's a Saturday. And we were on Yucca Street at the time. I'm by myself. And I'm like, well, is he okay? Is it all right for him to come in the studio? Because I'm alone. He just
right. So Rick James comes to the station?
Yeah, so he comes in and, had his little suit on and totally respectful, totally cool. We had a great time. He said, do you mind if I get on the air and speak? I said, you take as much time as you want, because we could do that back then. So I called my boss. I'm like, you're not going to believe this. Rick James is here. It's like, oh, shit, put him on. There wasn't, we got to schedule a time and you can't stay for more than an hour. You could seize the moment as it happened.
Absolutely.
And we talked, and he got to talk about drug use and trying to tell people don't do it. It messes up your life. And then he made a little song for me. It was just like this total surreal event. And I walked away going, thank you, God. Like, I love Rick James, And
you didn't think you were going to say that morning. Who knows? You didn't know you were going to say, I love Rick James by the end of the day. And
yeah, but I loved him. I loved his music before then. A little scary because of the stories I heard. But then as I got to know him, I think he was an Aquarius. I saw just what a gentle soul he was, and just very respectful and kind. And he'd been through a lot too, and it was just really nice to have that time with him. And it was just one of those things, sitting on the steps with Quincy Jones. Those little stairs that went up the back there on Yucca when we had it, because it used to be a restaurant, sitting there talking to Quincy Jones. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'd be pinching myself half the time when I was there.
that was the magic of the beat, because you never knew, even when I got there. And it was just, you walk through the doors, and I remember they had this called West Side Wednesdays, and you see Snoop just in the hallway hanging out, Ice Cube, E40, and you just, and it's just like, is this for real? This is like, it's like a playground of hip hop just in this section of in a building. And that was a dope thing about the beat, is at the Jocks, you were, like you said, you were able to bring just people on the air. Somebody had something to say, hey, come through, kick it. Did you ever get a chance? What was your relationship with Tupac? Did Tupac ever?
Yeah, so Tupac worked the weekend, Saturday nights with Julio, and Easy-E was there. He had his show. So aside from Pac sleeping with a few of my girlfriends at the time, and hearing those stories, he did. I was kind of surprised, but he was super cool.
What happened? Like, so your girlfriends tell you what's going on?
Oh,
they like, God, what's happening? Me and Pac got down. What's going on?
This is total groupie truth. You think this celebrity wants you, right? Oh, he wants me to come by. So he invites you by to his little penthouse on Wilshire, and you go in. And now I never partook in this part of it. Not to say that that I didn't dabble in the celebrity world, but I'm not waiting for anybody. Okay, you're not going to put me in a room and make me wait. I ain't got that kind of time, and I have no patience. So that's what they were telling me. Oh yeah, went over there and whoop whoop, and he, made me wait. And I how long did you wait for? Oh, about 4 hours. Well, you waited 4 hours. I don't care if it's Tupac. Oh no, I'm waiting 4 hours. They waited there 4 hours. He would come up, hit it, go back down to his boys.
Wow.
And they pack up and go home.
4 hours. And shout out to Pac. Pac is a legend. And he was out there, and then your girls would just tell you, hey, this is what happened.
And then wait for him to call again, knowing absolute truth that they might be number 22 on the list. But if he needs to get down to 22, he's gonna call them. So, when I met him, he was quiet. And I saw him a few times, because the way it worked at the Beat was, when you had clubs, you'd have like a Friday or Saturday night club deal, and so you'd come by the station, and either you'd take a limo. Shout out to Jackson Limousine. You'd take a limo out, or you would ride in whatever the van was. Right, you'd take the van out to the event. So sometimes I would just drive over, leave my car at the station, and then drive, with the street team over to the event. So if it was a Friday or Saturday night, I'd see everybody that was hanging out, right? Like everybody. Dude. Yeah.
That's the dog.
Come here. Come here, Ty. Oh, I ain't seen my kid.
Yeah, I can hear him. I can definitely hear him.
So Ty is 16. Can you come say hi to my friend B.Woods?
No. Oh, okay.
Come on. Just pop your head in the camera there. Please say hey.
Hey.
Can you see him?
What's up, Kai? How you feeling?
Feeling good.
There we go. He's tall as hell.
He's I'll tell you, honey, almost 5'10".
Almost 5'10".
Yeah.
I can
So
already
the
see
big one is Hunter. Hunter is 25 now. And can you make them go away, please? They keep knocking me over.
And he was wasn't he was playing football, like he was doing some football
Yeah,
stuff?
Hunter played D1 football for Washington State, and then a couple hits too many, so he didn't go into the NFL like he wanted. But he wound up kind of following in the footsteps of my dad and my cousins, and he went into the military.
Got you.
So that's where he is. And Ty, was born in East LA. He was a foster baby. I got him when he was about 14 months old. And so I've had him, I adopted him a year later, and he's been rolling with me ever since. So it's funny. He didn't have the life Hunter did. Hunter got to be on stage, backstage, going to Charlie Wilson's house for Father's Day, hanging out with Snoop. I mean, just crazy stuff. That kid.
It was a whole different world.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go back. So you said there was a Tupac story somewhere. So you
So
said
the Tupac story, when I would come on those nights, I would see him. He would usually be in one of those little offices we had. And, I would come by and say hi. Usually it was just hanging out like a lot of guys were, Eazy-E, he'd be in there. But Pac was always very sweet, kind, very smart. I mean, that was one thing I really felt like when I spoke to him. He was smart.
What was the conversation? What did you guys talk about? Was it like radio related stuff?
Music, mostly music and writing music. And, because, I was always interested in what, how people found their inspiration to write music. That was nothing I could ever imagine doing myself. I live life really fast. And so to write music, you really have to be in a pretty good headspace to be able to come up with lyrics and they make sense and a hook and, the whole thing. And so mostly it was music that we'd talk about and what he liked. And, I think everybody at that time was inspired by, just the whole genre of rap and hip hop, R&B. I loved seeing that come together when rap and R&B came together and became hip hop. That to me was the coolest vibe.
I think it was a different vibe, because I know like everybody's saying now R&B is dead, and I think a lot of that R&B is dope. There's a lot of dope R&B artists out right now, but I just think the medium was different because like stations like the B, they would play, as much R&B as they were playing hip hop. So you got to hear like the Brownstones, the Totals, the SWB, and all that. And you had UB. And I remember you were in the John B video, that What You Say Boo, right? That's one of my favorite songs. And I was just, how did your relationship with John B kind of pop off?
So John, I lived in Altadena.
And he was in Pasadena?
Altadena. And I think he was in Altadena.
Okay.
But I was at a club somewhere. I don't know what club we did out there. And he just came out and handed me a cassette tape. And he said, and he was so sweet. Oh my goodness, what a sweet kid. And he came up and he said, and he had this, deep voice. And, and I love your radio station. And I listen to it all the time, blah, blah, blah. He goes, can you, get this to your, music director? Well, back in the day, you could do that. You hand somebody your tape, right? And they get it to the radio station. You might hear it on the radio. The House Party used to do their feature every week where they would play people's stuff and they'd vote on it. Now, and all the listeners would go, yeah, love it, hate it. And so I took the tape and I remember I gave it to, I think I gave it to my program director, and where it went from there, I'm not really sure, but he had already gotten his foot in the door. But what blew me away was at the time, I was like, wow, you sound so much like Babyface. Like I'm listening to this beautiful white kid singing like Babyface. And I'm like, whoa. And we just became friends. I saw him out a lot. Kind of like Warren G. I would see these guys out when I was out at the clubs. They would come in and they would just kind of hang around, because usually wherever we were in the club, there was some security guy posted up there. So I think, they felt a little safety in that area until they really blew up. But I think Warren G still blames me for giving him his first drinks in a club when he was 19 down in Long Beach. But I guess I forgot to ask him how old he was when we were drinking together.
Wait, so we got to go back on that. So we're gonna get to the Warren G. So Warren G, you gave him the first drinks at 19.
Yeah, he came into the club. I just thought he was able to drink, and I got behind the bar and I was making drinks, and I might have had a few at that point myself. And we were kind of hanging out at the bar, so I'm giving him, we're drinking together, and then all of a sudden he's like, I'm 19, and I'm like, oh, geez, you didn't tell me that. He's like,
What
oh,
were you guys drink? You remember the drink? What was the drink?
Jack and Coke.
Okay, you went some dark liquor. Okay, got you.
Jack and Coke.
And did
Yeah,
did you know that? And Warren was already on his trajectory.
Yeah,
to-
yeah. He was already starting to, little gin and juice, starting to, move his way up in the mix at that time. And I just didn't know how young he was. And I think he told me, at that time he told me his cousin was Dr. Dre. And and I remember thinking to myself, wait, what? Like, it didn't even like click with me, because I was like, well, Snoop was always hanging around. And so, but Warren G was a sweetheart too. I mean, I loved him, and, just had the opportunity to really make some good friends. And of course, John B. So one day he's like, well, I'm going to make this video. Can you be in it? And I'm like, oh gosh, I hated being on camera. Oh, I hated being on camera. So insecure. And I was like, what do I have to do? And can I wear clothing? He's like, yeah.
But back in the day, the videos are always sexier with the women because they always told stories like Aaron Hall, I miss you. So it wasn't as hoochie, it wasn't like as hoochie-fied as it was back as it is now.
I know. And so I was a school teacher.
Hella sexy. All right, so now you have clothes on, you're at the R&B, you're at the John B set, and then what happens?
So I was a school teacher. He's like, basically, you're going to pretend to be the teacher who my kid, gets out and you bring my kid in or whatever. And I'm just like in the video as a school teacher. So it's right in the beginning. You can't miss it. And I was like, oh, so it was easy, but it was fun.
Yeah,
I'd never done that before. Right.
And it lives on because I watched the video on YouTube.
Yeah,
it's like one of my
great
favorite
song.
like that album was crazy.
Yeah.
And that was like one of those songs. It didn't hit, but it was a dope ass like regular song that you can still pump now. Then it's the nostalgia record. And so now what was one person that at the beat, because your middays at the beat were iconic. Who were some of the celebrities that you didn't realize were listening to you that either came up to you or you developed a relationship with?
Tashina Arnold. I mean, I would find out when I was out somewhere, like doing a red carpet or something, and then somebody would be like, oh, I listened to O.J. Simpson. I remember he called in one time, scared the crap out of me.
Wait, time out. So O.J. calls you chilling, right?
Yeah.
This is on the air. So what happens?
He said, I just want to thank you for doing what you do, which we heard a lot, right? Because people loved what the beat did, right? We were a community service station, but we played music. We talked about real stuff on the air, and I'm listening to his voice. And when you do radio, you hear the voices, right? So you're like, this voice is really familiar. And I'm like, until I met Jamie Foxx, and then I was like, okay, he can do anybody's voice. So now I'm all messed up. But he called and he said, I just want to thank you because I drive my kids to school in the morning, and I'm able to have this radio station on at this time because I know that you're not going to disrespect me. And I'm like, oh my God. And I said, is this who I think it is? And he goes, probably is. And I was like, okay. And then my little producer was in the back like, it's OJ Simpson. And you can hear him saying, it's OJ Simpson. And he goes, yeah, tell him he's right. He goes, but I just want to say thank you. He goes, because, we're going through a lot right now. And I just really appreciate that I can turn on this radio station and not have to hear anything. Now, I was just like, holy smokes, to hear that and to know it was him. And it isn't something that we really got into on the air, that whole scene. I felt like the courts were going to play it out themselves. And obviously we know where all that went, but it was kind of a surreal moment, which there were so many, so many people. Arsenio, just meeting Arsenio there. Daryl Strawberry walked in one day to the studio. I just wanted to meet you. I listened to you all the time. And I was like, oh my gosh, like Daryl Strawberry, you're like an excellent baseball player.
And Daryl and Shirley, are they related?
So Daryl's brother married Shirley. That's how Shirley became Shirley Strawberry. But then they split, and then Shirley remarried. So
gotcha.
Yeah. So then I don't remember how long they were together. They had a beautiful daughter together. I know that. His name was Michael Strawberry. But just stuff like that, people would wander in and you would just be, I'm at the front desk and here comes a Public Enemy in the front door, and our poor front office lady, Marilyn, they just want to walk right past her. And no, you better stop. And I'm like, oh, let him go. Marilyn,
Right.
let him
And that was the energy of the beat. That was the energy of the beat. It was just like, okay, we knew you, even if the front desk doesn't know you, your stature and your rap is bigger than what the front desk is gonna say. And that's what I always loved about the station. It was the swag. Because I know even when I was at K-Day, I would bring people like, like production people like 1500 and different people that had a street swag and had a certain level of cachet. But there was a lot of gatekeepers, and I was just like, that's not the culture I came from. I'm like, if you're hot, then you bypass everything and you get to get on the mic. Yeah. And I always we learned that from you. We learned that from the beat. And so when the beat was going to, its tail stages, were you there? Did you have a relationship with Steve Harvey when he
I was already gone by then. I'd gone back to KMEL to do mornings in San Francisco. So when he came on, I was already long gone.
Okay. And then you get to
I was not one of the angels, if that's
right.
Remember that? They all had to wear those wings. I'm like, are you really wearing those wings?
Did they even consider you to be one of the angels? Because I remember Nautica and Dominique was
already out of LA. Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't think I would have been considered to be an angel anyway at Steve Harvey's show.
Got you.
I need a little better tan, I think.
Well, Nautica was there too, so shout out to Dominique. But I always thought that the personalities really didn't fit with that particular thing. Yeah. I thought Shirley was always the dopest fit, and that's why she stuck. It just made sense personality wise.
Yeah.
And now you're you do middays, and then now. How was the experience at Hot?
Oh, Hot was a blast. So I'd gone up to San Francisco and did mornings there. And then I was co-hosting for a minute, and then the co-host left. And so I was anchoring, and our show went to #1. And then corporate came in and took everybody out. Mm-hmm. And my boss was Joey Arbogé, amazing guy. And then we called it the Zoo Crew in San Francisco. And then I wound up doing a couple things in the Bay for a little bit. And then I got offered to come back to LA. They wanted to have 2 women on in the morning. So it was Michelle and I, and that was fun. But I think the hardest part of that point was they were just kind of, my boss was Michelle Santasuoso. And at the time, she was being more innovative than they were ready for. They didn't want to put any money into marketing the show with these 2 women. The guys at the top felt that, they can play, that'll be our urban station. They can play that music, but we're not going to promote it at all, right? Okay. So, which was kind of a bummer. Sinbad had been on there. Right. They tried various hosts. So that was fun. And then they brought in Mario. I mean, we had, the best part about radio was interviewing the celebrities. You played great music, but as time went on, your playlist shrunk so that you could almost predict what you were going to hear that morning. And the time you had with the celebrity shrunk as well. But, to me, that was the fun part, was just getting to kind of meet people and see what they're really like, because we get these little glimpses of these people that we love listening to or we love watching, very little tiny glimpses. And then when you actually meet them in person, you're like, whoa, you're nothing like I thought you were,
Who would you say was your biggest surprise in that moment where you're like, they're nothing like you thought they were going to be like?
Well, Dwayne Johnson.
The Rock.
Oh.
What's your story with The Rock?
Okay. So do you remember Kevin Jewelers? Is he still around in LA? Okay. Mm-hmm. So we did a kind of a lunch together with, at that time, I was at Hot, and we were there, and Damon Knight was our producer and on the air with us. And so it was me and him, and we went to lunch with Kevin, and all of a sudden, I see this guy walk by, and I'm like, my God, that looks just like The Rock. So my eyes just like glued, And so Damon says, what's wrong with you? And I said, I think Dwayne Johnson just passed our table. We were at the Ivy in Santa Monica. Likely, could have been him. So I go, run, follow him, see if it's him. So he comes back, he goes, yeah, it's him. He's waiting outside the bathroom. And I'm like, oh, great. So I get up and I run to the bathroom. So I walk up to him and I'm like, hi. And he goes, hello. And we start talking. And I said, I am such a fan of yours. And he's like, oh, great, and I said, I work in radio and I'm a little nervous, because he's so beautiful. Oh my God, so beautiful. But when I looked at him, he wasn't as big as I thought he would be. He's 6'4" in heels. Right. I'm like 6'1" or whatever. So, and he wasn't as, like muscular as I thought he would be in person. And so, but he was still fine. So I'm talking to him and I said, I have this radio show and I'd love you to come on and you can, pimp whatever you're doing. And he goes, what did you just say? And I went, I use a lot of lingo. I said, you can come and promote whatever you're doing. He goes, no, you said pimp. I said, I did say pimp. And he goes, I am playing the part of a pimp and we're filming right across the street. And I think the movie was Be Cool. And I said, right. Was it or one? I don't remember what movie.
I think it is Be Cool. That's one that they had like a million celebrities in that movie.
So I said, can I ask you a question? And he said, sure. I said, did you really have part of your pectoral muscle removed so that you would look like a gay male and your breasts would be softer in the movie? I'd read that about him. And he goes, I did. Do you want to feel it? Sure. So he takes my hands, lifts up his shirt. I'm now feeling his breast tissue, right? I'm under his shirt. My hands are under his shirt. I can feel the scars where they had gone in and taken it out. But he's like, you can build it back up. As I'm doing this, here comes my producer. What the hell are you doing? You're supposed to be getting the man's number to bring him on the air, and
you're giving him a chest massage. At this point, it's foreplay happening, and
so. Anyways,
is he feeling you at this point? What's going on?
No. Oh no. It was strictly business. He was answering my question. Of course, in my mind, it was a whole other party. But no. We're outside the bathrooms at the Ivy, and that's exactly what it was. My producer gives him a card, off we go. And I was like, now that was interesting. I did not expect, one, that he'd be so friendly, two, that he'd be so open. And it was really a really cool moment. And now I can say that I actually felt his breasts, and I'm not lying.
Dope. Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, like, and probably it's probably every woman's fantasy to do that. And so that's insane. I mean, have you seen him since that whole thing? Have you ran into him at all?
No, I think I was there for a while. I was doing a lot of, after Hot, I mean, there was a couple things here and there. I was doing a lot of remote radio shows. So I was on in Denver, I was on in Utah. I mean, I was just on in different places. So I would work from home. And so I didn't really see a lot of that environment anymore. It was more, we were moving into that aspect of radio where it just wasn't personal anymore. It was like, go ahead and cut voice tracks. We upload them. And that was it. There wasn't much more interesting to it than that. So I started getting bored with it. And you good?
Yeah.
Started getting bored with everything, and did not like working by myself from home because I love people. And that's when I decided, let me see if I should try getting a real job. Which was good for a while. It was good for a while. So.
And then.
Go ahead.
And what do you think is the biggest thing now? I mean, like, what's like as far as like what radio needs in order for it to have that same level of charisma? Because I remember you saying, like, because even out here in LA, there's a heritage station, KJLH, which pretty much has stayed the same, and they've had a certain level of, I guess, success and consistency. Yeah. And what do you think they're doing versus like, where the state of radio is, and what do you think it takes to make it better or even listenable, if that's even a word?
I mean, it's just, I don't know if financially they would give the localism that we used to have back. I don't know if they would ever let us go back to the way it was, where it was more personalized. where you can actually call into the radio station and get on the air with whoever's on the air and have a conversation about what happened just now on the 405 kind of vibe, or, what happened when I was at the club, last whatever. I just don't think that localization is there anymore. And I think that, I think that's huge. I think that's huge. People want to connect with something and someone. And I just think the way radio is now, they're not able to connect on that level.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing, just because it's so corporate, and everything is about demographics. It's all
dollar bill, yo.
Exactly, making that money. And I think it takes the energy, especially with urban. Like, urban radio needs to have a certain level of realness to it. I always thought like the what's Dominique's department, where they had the community action, because they really had a foot in the streets, and it translated to the air. And I thought that was always one of the reasons why the beat actually worked, because even when I was staying, I would be like in Inglewood, or I'll be in South Central, or wherever, whether we were doing street team or I was just kind of hanging out, we actually saw the van in the areas that the station was talking about. So for us, it was just like, okay, we can co-sign it, because I'm hearing and I'm actually seeing the people out and about, and it's making sense. It's making sense.
Yeah, I mean, that I think would work if they could do it. I know Dominique's still doing her thing. Josefa Selena's still doing her thing. Nautica. It's funny because I see her and PJ Butter on Facebook, and their kids already going to college, and I'm like, oh, we're old.
I'm like,
goodness, we're so old.
I'm like, I remember when they just had the baby. I was like, oh my God, like in college. And I'm like, I need my DeLorean. This is crazy. So it's a whole, it's like time is flying. And so what's next for you, Diana Steele, and where can we find you and all that good stuff?
I do a lot of voiceover stuff. So I just started up doing stuff for Westwood One. So I'm doing some of their sports not game announcing, but more like, liners, tags, things like that, the in-between stuff. And I've got, I do commercials and that off and on. I've kind of been thinking about getting back into the radio world. Again, I'd have to find a station that, allows you to have that freedom where you can actually talk to people. Because that to me was my favorite part of radio, was just being able to talk to people and, even artists, I think I like the listeners probably more than anything else. I'm still friends now with listeners that I met, through being at the beat, and just, they become part of your lives, you become part of theirs, and it's real. It's not just, oh, I saw you here and now I can't remember who you are kind of vibe, so I miss that part. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, I'm right now I'm in the middle of redoing a house, and I'm taking it out of the 90s. We're trying to break out of the 90s. And I've got my son who's got another year left, and then we'll see what he's going to be doing. He's a senior now. And, just kind of seeing what floats, seeing what I like.
Yeah, making it make sense. And, and I just want to absolutely thank you too, just because you've meant so much to radio and to middays, and to me.
Well, we had so much fun. I mean, you just can't even explain to somebody how much fun it is, right?
I mean, really, like, I remember the girls' night outs and all that.
Oh, I love the girls' night outs. Oh my God. Well, let me tell you a quick story. I'm going to tell you
really quick. Go ahead. Take your time with the story. Go ahead.
So I'm backstage at Arsenio Hall, and here comes the game. So I remember the game when he was a little boy, and his mama was the one, Lynette, who would get us the strippers for the girls' night out.
Right.
So I'd call her up and I'd say, okay, we need strippers, because at first they wanted to bring us strippers that maybe a lot of our crowd wouldn't be that into, I myself did not like skinny little boys. I liked bigger, meatier men.
You like The Rock.
Yeah. So Lynette's like, I got you, girl. So she would bring in all these dudes and backstage, and here would be the game, because he's the same age. I think he's maybe a year older than my son. And he would be helping in the back. he'd be, here's a towel, we'll be doing. And so I remember seeing him running around. So I'm backstage at Arsenio, and he's coming. I'm like, oh man, I haven't seen him like since he was a little kid. Not thinking he'll know who I am, right? I mean, we're like, we're years off of this.
Right.
So, and he had a little girl with him, and then he had her baby mama with him, and I could just feel there's a little tension as they're coming in, right? So I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna say anything, go say hi. Because sometimes when I'd see people come backstage, I'd just go up and say hi while they're waiting to go on and just kind of see if they were friendly or whatever. So he's coming out of the hallway, and I said, hey, do you need anything, And he's like, yo, that's something I was going to get him. I don't know. I had to go into Arsenio's room to get it. Might have been some wine. I can't remember. And so I started to tell him, he goes, wait a minute. He goes, what do you do here? And I said, oh, I announce for Arsenio. I said, oh, really? How'd you get that gig? Wait a minute. Who are you? And I'm like, oh my God, like the game knows who I am. Everybody else looks at me like this crazy white lady that must be sleeping with Arsenio to get this job. And he's like, this time Steele. Hold on. He calls his mom. Mama, you're not going to believe this. So we take pictures. He's got his little girl. I'm like, oh, you're so grown up now. And this is the game, right? And I'm thinking, he's this cute little boy, and now he's all grown up. And I'm looking like mommy would look at him, And Arsenio comes out. He goes, who the hell don't you know? And I'm like, I didn't know Gene Simmons.
That is correct. That's so funny, because it's just like, yeah, because you were literally like the voice of LA. Yeah.
No idea he would remember, right? But and it was crazy because his mom had recently, she'd had a heart attack not too long before, and like almost died. And so it was like some stuff that happened in their lives. And he was just really sweet, really cool. And that was just one of those moments where I was like, oh my gosh, like here I'm thinking he would probably won't remember being that little boy backstage helping out and all that, but he just knew that this was something that his mom did with the lady on the radio,
And yeah, it was so crazy, because it's so funny that you mentioned that too, because she had a really great relationship with Hot. Because I remember we went up, because I think she was in Lancaster. It was the first time I went to Lancaster. Yep. And then she's like, yeah, my boy, he's doing some stuff with Dr. Dre and this, and you would always hear that, everybody's doing something with Dr. Like, okay.
That's right. So
I just knew she was like hella cool, and she was radio station. So it was just like, okay. And then when Game came out, I was like, oh, it's so funny that you guys had such a close relationship. So shout out to Game. That's
the really cool thing was then after that, then she came on the show. She came in to watch the show. So it was kind of cool to be able to see her again, but just crazy stuff. So, but all great memories, right? Feel very
great memories.
So blessed to be able to be a part of that whole era, that whole scene,
And I think it's so valuable. What was the deal with Aaron Hall? So we always had, so for those who don't know, like I used to see Aaron Hall, like literally every single day at the radio station. I think I was maybe on the air or something like that. This was at Hot. But Aaron Hall would be there more than the engineer. What the hell was going on? And he would always be there in the morning. I'm like, this brother is doing something here. I'm like, if I Miss You was on, he didn't miss y'all because he saw y'all every goddamn day. So what was
Aaron became part of the family.
Aaron Hall.
He became part of the family. He just, I think he was a Leo, if I'm not mistaken. He just had this big old heart, and my co-host, Michelle, I think he may have had a little crush on her, because, she had cheese and everything.
I remember those. She would show them off all the time, too.
They're gone now.
Are you serious?
She did a whole documentary on it called Explant. Yes. Yeah, they were causing her great problems. And yeah, it's crazy. So he might not follow her now, but he definitely loved him some Michelle. And he would just come and hang out, talk about music, and he just liked being there. And you know what? It was okay then. That was right when it was still okay, Right. So that was nice, because that was when Hot, we had all the stations next to each other in the studios, and, so it was a cool time. It's a cool
Yeah, shout
time.
out to Aaron Hall. It was so funny because I remember after a girls' night out, we were like, all right, because we were in promotions, we were in the promotions department. We were like, all right, everybody let's take this big promotions picture. And we take the picture, and then you look to the side and Aaron Hall is in the picture of the promotions. I'm like, if this brother, how is this brother in the promotions picture? I mean, shout out to Aaron Hall. We love you. He was there every day, you know.
Oh, God, it's so funny. Yeah, I saw a picture of Corn Dog. I know we can't call him that anymore.
Yeah.
Cornelius. But and I just saw this picture. I don't know what club we were at, and I was like, oh, it just brought back so many great memories. You know, so much fun.
Yeah, it's like it's a memorable time, and that's why I think these conversations are so important, because people can't you can't put into words what it was back then. I mean,
No.
before the internet, it was like the real life, just a fantasy, like hip hop and R&B for real. Like it was crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was absolutely. But you know, what a blessing it was to be able to be a part of that and to experience all that. And I mean, I'm just like thankful all the time, because when life gets serious, you know, and stuff happens and you go through different crises, I can always go back to those times and just be like, oh my Lord, that was so much fun.
Yeah.
So much fun.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about, is creating those memories. And I want to thank you so much, Diana.
Sure.
You are flowers.
Yeah, no problem. I know you're like, oh, you don't have to send me anything. This is like such an honor for me that you would even want me to do this with you. And I'm not only honored because of that, but just that you want to take the time to like enjoy those memories and like think about what a difference it made to people. I mean, music is what moves people. Music is, it saves people. It, you know, do you remember Tiffany Haddish used to call in on the radio station wanting to do skits all the time?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she was a little girl. She was in high school and she'd call all the time. And John London actually made her like a regular to do skits.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah. She used to call me too when she was little. I forgot about her until I'm on Arsenio. She comes on to do a skit and she comes running over to me. She goes, I'm gonna steal your boyfriend, girl. He ain't gonna want you no more. And I was like, oh geez, who's this? And I'm like, well, first of all, he's not my boyfriend. Just throwing it out there. And then I go, wait a minute. And I'm like, Tiffany? She goes, yeah. And I go, Tiffany, do you know my name? And she's like, no. And I go, Diana Steele, I worked at the beach. She goes, oh my God. I used to call you all the time. I used to call John London. I used to do all these skits. And she just started. And I'm like, look at her now. Look at her now.
That is insane.
She had confidence and strength, and she just was not going to let anything stop her. And I look at her now and I'm like, wow, it's just awesome. Just awesome.
Yeah, that was the thing, because I was just like, I didn't know. I didn't even know that she was connected in that way and local.
Yeah.
In that way.
Isn't that
like
crazy?
that story like literally blows my mind, because I'm just like, I didn't.
But that shows you too the effect that 92.3 The Beat had in Los Angeles to so many people during that time frame. Like it connected with people on such a level that this little girl who's gone through a rough time, this is what she looked forward to, was to be able to call in and be a part of these skits. You know, it's amazing to me.
It really is.
Yeah.
You don't really, I mean, because I was the same person in the sense of like, I had that connection. That's why I wanted to be at the beat, because I felt emotionally connected and pulled in. Like I really knew everybody. And I was just like, oh, wow, this is something, this is a space I want to be in. And then when you actually go there and everybody's still the same way they are on the radio, you're like, oh, this is Disneyland for hip hop. This is crazy.
Yeah, it really was Disney World.
Disney World, yeah. Disney World.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much just for inviting me to come on and letting me reminisce and just really be appreciative of the time that I was able to be a part of such an incredible scene and just so many great memories. And I met so many beautiful people, and we were blessed. We were definitely blessed.
Definitely a blessed time. And thank you so much, Diana. We're gonna
Well, I hope you find Theo somewhere out there in the weeds.
All right, this is what we're gonna do. If you find Theo before I find Theo, let me know, because I definitely got to find Theo's ass. And
I will let you know.
Yeah, we gonna smoke signals, a damn bird in the sky, a flare, something. Let me know.
Yeah, he might still live in the same house. I remember he had a gang of cameras around it, so I'm afraid if I walk up there, I might get arrested or something. But I might be able to still find him.
Knowing Theo, he probably have a weird ass alarm system that just says Theo.
Yeah, this big old cage will come down on you.
Exactly. Theo was mysterious. So it's gonna be a mysterious system. So all right, Doc. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
You are welcome. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and I appreciate it. We'll talk soon.
All right, we'll talk soon.
All right, take care.
All right, bye.
Bye.